Yes, my name is Clark Crenshaw. I'm a photographer in Garland, Texas. I sell my work at outdoor art shows around the country. I also license some of my images through my website, which is clarkcrenshawphotography.com. My own photography, I have a variety of work I shoot. I've shot architecture, scenics in the Southwest, and other areas of the United States. The last few years, I've been shooting a lot of night skies, which include Milky Ways and moons and things like that. As far as the judging for this contest, what I first do is look over the images, figure out the ones that I like the best, what I do like or what I don't like about images, and why. I'll then put them in an order from the best to, I don't want to say the worst, but just kind of arrange them in the order of my preference. That's what I'm trying to say. And as far as the critiques on each one, I've got to keep that pretty short, so I'm just going to say a few things, suggestions that may help each image, and that will be it. Thank you very much for asking me to judge. The first group I'm judging here is the entry-level images, and the first image in that group is the 12 Nights of Christmas. I gave it a score of 9. It's a pretty good idea on this image. What would help this image is one you could have shot bracketed exposures, blending them so you could have brought out a little more detail in whatever it is that's going on under the gazebo. It's very bright and overexposed in that area. It may help us understand a little bit about what's actually going on in this picture. The next image is Dewdrops on Tulips. I gave it a score of 10. Some nice pretty flowers with water droplets on them. I may have not included the dark area, shadow area that's kind of under them, and actually got a little bitty dark spot in the top right corner. And probably what this photo needed to really top it off was maybe a really sharply focused bug climbing around on one of the edges of one of those flowers to really sort of break up what's just a pattern shot. The second image in this group is titled Dune and Mountain. I gave it a score of 10. It's a neat scene with actually some good either morning or evening light. However, you really kind of divided the shot in half with the kind of horizon line or line below the mountains. It almost cuts the whole picture in half. I wouldn't have included quite as much of that blue sky. Not having any clouds or any color in any clouds makes me think I wouldn't have wanted to use any more of that in the composition. Also, cutting some of that sky out would have helped. The next image is titled Monet's Water Garden. I gave it a score of 10. The harsh midday light's kind of hurting you on this one. I might have tried a polarizer. It may have taken some of the glare off the lily pads and some of the other plants and maybe cut down the harshness of the image. Also, the foreground kind of leaves and stuff sticking up. I'd either got a little something nicer with the foreground or just left not included those things sticking up like they are now. The next image is titled Colorful Geyser. I gave it a score of 11. Several things that may help. It's actually leaning left pretty hard if you really look at the reflections and actually what's being reflected. I might have straightened that up. The trees on the hillside really aren't as sharp as maybe I would have liked them. Maybe them sharper might have emphasized sort of the softness of the fog a little bit. The next image is titled Don't Fence Me In. I gave it a score of 11. This one just needed a little bit different lighting conditions to have shot this. Looks like it's right in the middle of the day. I would try and shoot just the same thing again, either early in the morning or late in the evening, and hopefully you'd have some nice clouds with some color in them to add to that too. This image is titled Pelican Brief. I gave it a score of 11. Actually, some really nice subject matter here. I would not have included quite so much stuff going on behind them. You got a couple of boats running around and a bird flying and oil platforms, just way too much other things going on back there when the pelicans are the main focus here. You could really take this same image and crop it almost right down the middle to get rid of everything in the top half. It would do pretty good. Also a little less exposure to keep from blowing out some of the white on the wings of the birds. This image is titled Red Rock Canyon. I gave it a score of 11. I would have not included quite so much of the rock on the right in the lower foreground. The shadowed rock doesn't add that much to it. I might have shot with a longer lens and zoomed in much more on the man in the background and all the rock features and all in the background. That's where your nice light and the interest is in this image. The image is titled Grand Canyon. I gave it a score of 12. It's nice evening light, or morning or evening light on this shot. I might have kicked up the contrast just a little bit on the processing, just to brighten up the bright areas and maybe darken the shadow areas in the background a little bit too. The image is titled Alaska Bay. I gave it a score of 12, and it was also the first honorable mention. Several things that might have helped this. Probably needed a boat or something in the water just to sort of add a little more interest and maybe get it a few more bonus points. Also, the saturation looks like it's been kicked up just almost a little too much for my taste. This image is titled Butterfly in Vigorous Summer Garden. I received a score of 12 and was also an honorable mention. I might have liked this one a little bit better, just cropped as a vertical. A lot of the stuff in the left side and the lower left aren't adding a whole lot to this image. Also, the background might could have been a tad darker and a little more out of focus. This image is titled All Dressed Up in Wildflowers. It received a score of 13 points and a second place. A couple things I might have liked to seen you done a little different. A little more interest in the foreground. The way it's shot here, the flowers are so far away and small to maybe seen you get a little, find a good patch of these flowers and get it much more pronounced in the foreground. Also, maybe a path leading through the flowers or something else going on there. As it's shot, the flowers are nice, but they're so small they're not quite as effective. The final image here is titled Fish Market. Received a score of 14. And also was your first place image in the entry level category. It's a pretty neat shot of the fish. Not too much I can say to improve that. Kind of a nice mix of colors with the peppers and the fish and the tomatoes. On something like this, I hope you did shoot lots of different compositions. I feel like, wow, you probably could get a whole bunch of different compositions from this that worked pretty good. And I usually work something over real good like this. And eventually I'll have a few that just seem to work a lot better than other compositions. And I'll go with the best one of the bunch. Going on to the intermediate group, the first image here is Best Time of the Day. Gave it a score of 8. A couple things that would help this one. Nothing on it's really all that sharp. Not so much where you focus, but needing to use a faster shutter speed or maybe a little more image stabilization going on. Just doesn't, even where it's focused, the grasses and whatever just aren't really all that as sharp as they could be. Also, the background could have been a little cleaner. The animal in the background kind of distracts from this shot. If you just had nothing but green grass back there, it would have been better. This image is titled A Dr. Seuss Truffula Tree in Fireworks. Pretty good shot of fireworks. I probably find myself wanting something else to go with it, just to let you know where were these fireworks. If you look on my own website, I got the Margaret Hunnell Bridge with fireworks, which is something really neat to go with the fireworks and really something you relate to. But that's kind of what I wanted, just what else is here with these fireworks. The next image is titled Birches. I gave it a score of 9. This doesn't quite work. It's a good idea, but kind of getting just the design of the dark spots and the light spots to work just right is kind of tricky to do. I noticed some writing on one of the trees, probably something carved in the trees, because I've seen them done that way a lot, but might have got in a little tighter on that to make it a focal point on one of the trunks, and then kind of worked on it from there, but just not quite working here with the design of things. This image is titled Perseid Meteor. I gave it a score of 9. It's much like the previous image. It's a good exposure of what it is, but I want to see where were you when this meteor happened. What else is going on here? Was you in the mountains? Was there a lake by you? I just want to see what else was included to let me know where you were when you saw this meteor. This image is titled Intricate Sand Mandala. I gave it a score of 10. Not really familiar with whatever game that is. A lot of colors here, almost a little too punched up, it looks like. Y'all got to watch it with that saturation tool. I probably would have liked it a lot better if it just captured maybe an expression on one of the players' faces a little bit better. You kind of get the side of this one guy's head on the left and the guy in the top right, you almost got him a little cut off. If maybe we could just see a little more of his face and how he's reacting to playing this game or whatever that is. This image is titled Xenia Survives Summer. I gave it a score of 10. Looks like you've used a texture screen over a picture of a Xenia. It helps the shot a little bit, but still doesn't salvage it for me. It's really just kind of a straight-on shot of a Xenia, and I just felt it needed a little more going on than that. This image is titled Ain't I Cute? I gave it a score of 11 points. Pretty nicely done. I do like the way out of focus green background behind this one. Some of the bright areas on his feathers are just pretty much blown out. You can't really tell any detail or anything, and those little less exposure to bring that out might have helped. End of the Trail. I gave it a score of 11 points. It's a pretty nice image. I might have lightened the part of the sign where it says End of Trail as it is right now. It's just about the darkest thing in the image. I also feel that maybe you cranked up the saturation a little bit over the top, just a tad. The colors are almost a little too punchy. And I think it looks like Zion National Park possibly, which I've been there and just don't remember it glowing quite like that. This image is titled License and Registration, Please. Gave it a score of 11. I think one thing that might have helped if you could have got a shot, the bird, he's right in front of the edge of the mirror, so it kind of breaks everything up. Plus his beak's kind of in front of the person's eye that's reflected in the mirror. If the bird was off to the left, maybe by itself, separated from the background a little better in a shot, that may have helped it a little. This image is titled Rainy Day at the Beach. I gave it a score of 11. Some of this I felt like you just might have needed to move a little closer to it, or maybe a longer length lens. The lighting's not really that neat, so that's not helping you out any. And the people with the umbrella are pretty far away. The sea stacks are also pretty far away, so it's kind of hard to know, well, what's the most interesting thing here. The possibilities are all pretty far away and small in the image, so it kind of makes for a lot of this image ends up not as interesting as it needs to be. This image is titled Sisters, Patience, and Joy Bonding. I gave that a score of 11. Pretty nice shot of these two lions. However, what kind of hurts it, some of the areas, the eyes, the mouths, the shadow area kind of between the two lions' heads, it's just gone just pretty much detailless black. If there's any way to kind of salvage some detail in some of that by reprocessing this, that would sure help this image. The image is titled Takedown. I gave it a score of 11. It's a pretty nice action shot, although I feel like the best shot may have been from the complete other side of these soccer players, where you could have captured the face and the expression of the girl getting ready to kick the ball, and then number 66 that looks like she's getting ready to go down. As it is right now, we're kind of seeing the backside of most of the important players in this photograph. Flowers at the Havana Market. I gave that one a score of 12. Pretty good shot. A thing or two that may have helped you. Just darn near getting her hand up in front of her face a little bit. Not totally, but was getting close. Also, the background behind the flowers is a little cluttered back here, so maybe a little different angle on her to clean up the background a little and maybe catch a pose where her hand's not kind of starting to get in front of her face as much. The next image is titled Last Dance of the Lilies. I gave it a score of 12. It's a neat design of these old, dying plants. I do think that maybe you got a little too warm with the color balance on that one. That's probably the main thing for me. Baby, I gave this one a score of 12. This is done pretty well. I think you maybe got in a little too tight to the head of the giraffe. I don't too much mind the background giraffe, but maybe a little different juxtaposition of the two may have worked a little better. Maybe a little more separation between the two. Baby Flamingo. I gave this one a score of 13. It's a pretty interesting shot of a flamingo. The black and white tones are all pretty good on it. I kind of wonder why we didn't go with color on that one, since it is a flamingo and they're normally pretty pink. I'm not quite sure about the babies, but did kind of wonder about the choice of black and white on this one. This one is titled Brutta. I gave it a score of 13 points. It's a pretty creative idea that was pulled off pretty well, and I'm not sure if I got anything that really bothered me on that one. Honey Foo Foo. I gave this one a score of 13 points. It's kind of an interesting combination of this statue with the balloons in the sky. And actually from the flamingo I judged before this all the way through the winners, there's not a whole lot I can fault with these images. They are all pretty well done. Pretty much the scores and the order they're in just show kind of my personal preference towards them more than anything. Like I could maybe nitpick a little and say there's a few vacant spots of sky here that could use a balloon or two, but that's probably all I could say that could do to improve this one. Young Girl with Red Flower. I gave that one a score of 14 points, and it received an honorable mention. This one's done pretty good. About the only thing I could suggest at all would be maybe just dodge a little bit of the front of her face and around her eye just to lighten it up a little. But other than that, I think it's pretty well done. This image is Busy as a Bee. I gave it a score of 14 points, and it was also your third place winner. The bee is just really tack sharp, his eye and head and part of his wings, kind of the way you would want it. I do like kind of that real dark, out of focus green background behind the flower. About the only thing that maybe we could improve is just a little dark spot down in the left bottom corner. Maybe either cropped it a little to where that didn't show. And that's about the only suggestion I got for that one. Otherwise, a great image. White Calla Lilies received a score of 14 and a second place. I like what you did here. A lot of Calla Lily shots almost look like they're just trying to do the same thing. This one here, you kind of mixed in some of the leaves on each side, and it all seemed to work out compositionally and got all sharp. The flower and the leaves are all sharp where they needed to be, and not too much I can tell you to improve on that one. Titled Monkey, it received a score of 15 points, and it was your first place winner in the intermediate group. Not too much I could say to help this one either. Kind of wonder if you used a sort of what I'd call a reverse vignette around this one, where instead of darkening the edges, lighten the outer edges. Might verify to the club which one that was, the maker of this photo. But other than that, I don't have too much else to say to help on this one. It's a very nice image. Congratulations to all the winners in the intermediate category. On to the advanced group. We have the first image, window and stairs. I gave it a score of 8 points. This one has kind of a old line drawing type effect put on this image. It didn't really salvage it, in my opinion. Trying to visualize what this looked like without the effect, and just feel like it was an image that just didn't work better with the line effect like it had. Image is titled Big Apple at Dawn. I gave it a score of 10. Looks like you had pretty good light for this, but like a lot of the other images in the competition, you got a sky without really any interesting cloud. Usually when I have a cloudless sky like this, I will just try and use as little of it as possible in the image, because it's really just taking up space. A polarizer may have helped on this. This image is titled Upper Antelope. It's a score of 10. I guess I've seen so many super duper Antelope Canyon shots over the years that I'm getting kind of spoiled. This one's okay. There's not really things wrong with it as such, but just compositionally and all, I've just seen a lot of shots from this place that seem a lot better. Alaskan Glacier and Early Morning Clouds. I gave this one a score of 11. Pretty nice shot with pretty good light. Or one thing I might have done better or done differently on this is pull out a longer focal length lens. The glacier itself and the reflection are kind of the main features of this, and I would have zoomed in kind of on that area a lot more than you did. Start the bottom of the image maybe right under the reflection of the glacier and cut it off just above the top of the mountains. The shot is titled Mislaid. I gave it a score of 12. This shot could have benefited from a little better lighting. The light's just pretty flat in it the way it is now. Maybe some morning or evening light or just something with a little direction to it. Maybe having this little fuzzy thing on the sand casting a shadow or something, and maybe enough light to sort of punch up the color of the water in the sand a little bit. I think that would have helped. The next image is titled Dubrovnik Rooftop. Gave it a score of 13 points, and it was your third place image. This is kind of an interesting shot. It actually does some things that maybe the landscape shots could take a lesson from. This photographer got really close up and showed some of the detail of this roof right in the foreground, which really kind of gives it some depth. I just really kind of like that effect, and also the same kind of thing really works great on some landscape shot. Also, I noticed it did have some clouds in the sky, which some of the other shots actually didn't have, which is kind of ironic because in this case it might even have been better to have had just a solid blue spot for that little bit in the corner. The white clouds actually are the brightest thing in the image, and because of that tend to draw your eye to that. This image is titled Spider Web Rain. Gave it a score of 13 points. It also received a second place. A lot of things well done here. The spider, just almost every bit of him is tack sharp, except maybe a little bit of his leg or something. And also the dew on the web, you got a little bit of that sharp. Since you're on the angle you took it at, you really have no chance of getting very much of that sharp. But it works pretty well what you've done here, kind of having the spider off-centered and just the placement of all the elements. This last image is titled The Drummer. It received a 14 points and a first place. Pretty interesting image of this guy. I guess he's beating on those drums and kind of glanced over at the photographer during it. Probably the only thing I think would have helped, I get the feeling he probably used a little bit of flash on this, and it got a little kind of hot and glary on the guy's face. But other than that, pretty well done shot, and congratulations on first place for the drummer. Moving on to the Masters group, the first image is titled Let There Be Light. I gave this one a score of 8. I love shooting lightning. It's always cool to get out and, I don't know, try and get some neat shots. But this one almost comes across more as kind of a weird looking colorful cloud than a lightning shot. The lightning's almost lost in some of the bright areas of the cloud, and then it just looks kind of like an over-processed cloud, kind of the way it came off to me. I'm sorry. The next image is titled The Dome of Shadow and Light. I gave it a score of 8. The dome itself isn't really quite all that interesting. It needs something you can see through the dome, or maybe some window washers on the dome, or something like that going on to really give it some impact and a little more interest. The way it is now, you just kind of see some buildings and some sky behind there, and it just kind of lacks the impact because it doesn't have that one little extra thing going on up there, either on the dome or through the dome. This image is titled Abandoned Dwelling Beagle Channel. I gave that one a score of 9. On this image, the building just seems to be getting in places just kind of lost in the background. It seems like there's sunlight on everything. It might have done better if you kind of had some light almost spotlighting the building, but not any light hitting the mountain and all behind it, where it would just kind of stand out a little more and look a little more dramatic in the scene. Next image is titled Clouds at White Sand. I gave that one a score of 9. One thing about this one that I might commend you on is giving more space to the sky up there. You did have kind of some neat clouds going on, and instead of dividing the picture in half like some of the earlier images done, you actually gave close to 2/3 of the top half to the sky, since that was what your main focus was on. There's just not a lot of light or extra color going on with the clouds. Just kind of everything in the scene almost is just kind of blue. I almost think it needed maybe a little light to do something different to the clouds there. The next image is titled Discord. I gave it a score of 10. This image, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. I'm not quite sure what the significance of the kind of reflection looking part on the left side is, and then I guess the other part of this is the woman's expression. It almost, I guess it kind of scares me. It makes me think, wow, somebody's wife is mad at them. But anyway, that's just me. Church with White Puffy Cloud. I gave that one a score of 11. This one, I think, to me, I almost feel like you could have simplified it down even more. Just put it down to the dome of the cross, and then the area with the first window under it and the cloud. Just simplified it down even more. I think including as much as the lower part of the church there as you did. I don't know, it just detracts from the simplicity of the whole thing, of just kind of the cross and the cloud. But, you got too much of the rest of it showing there, so. First time fishing. I gave that one a score of 11 points. I think a little, maybe different camera position and maybe a little different cropping would have both helped this one. The log with the turtles and all the limbs sticking out of the log and behind it are maybe a little distracting. I could have shot it just a little slightly higher angle and then cropped it just below that log where it showed the reflection of the log, but not the log and all the clutter kind of behind it. Also a little darkening of some of the bright reflections in the water, especially maybe the one right behind his neck. Kylemore Abbey, Ireland. Gave that one a score of 11 points. This image, I don't know what it is about I think it's the processing on it. It all looks just kind of a little edgy, not necessarily over sharpened, but it just almost shows too much detail of the detail. Also, the castle itself almost looks abnormally kind of bright and washed out. I don't know if that was a processing thing, or God, did it really look like that? I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know, something unnatural about the way it looks now. Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge at night. I gave that one a score of 11. Oh, wow, I bet with the river having been flooded the last 2 years, everybody in town's got a shot of this one now. But I might have used some bracketed exposures, which maybe you did do that, I don't know. But I would usually, when I shoot this stuff, I'll bracket exposures and either use HDR software, or what I normally prefer is just blending a few exposures together in Photoshop layers. But anyway, it looks like maybe a little detail you could have pulled out in a few of the buildings and a few other places by using that technique a little more. The image is titled Nightfall in Florence. I gave it a score of 11. Pretty good shot. Night in Florence. Pretty good timing on the lighting on this one. Probably the one thing that kind of bothered me on this one, it almost looks a little, some of the detail in the building just almost looks a little edgy. I don't know if it was over sharpened or maybe something you did with one of the many softwares out there that just got everything looking just a little too edgy. But that's kind of the only thing that bothered me about this one. This image is titled Play With Me. I gave it a score of 11. Pretty good photograph of this kid holding kind of a hoop and a little piece of wood. You got a little close cropping on the top there, kind of got into his hair just a tad. I also might have brightened up his eyes just a little bit. They're kind of down in the shadows a little more, and just a little dodging in just the right place. Could have brightened up his eyes just a little bit. Deer drinking water at sunset. Gave that a score of 12. Great light on this and good reflection. You did kind of cut into the deer's back a little bit with your shot. Just a little bit looser there would have helped. Happiness. Cotton candy on the 4th of July. I gave this one a score of 12. Pretty good on this image. The lighting's real good and even. A couple things that might help. The cropped it almost a little too tight. You're right up against the top of her head and right up against his hand on the left side. Just a slightly looser on the cropping wouldn't hurt any. I also might brighten up the eyes just a little bit, just enough to maybe start picking up a little color and white in the eyes. Not so much that it looks unnatural. The Lonely Road. I gave this one a score of 13 points and it received an honorable mention. One thing good about this one is the kind of overcast lighting. It works pretty well in a situation like this. Just to sort of reiterate some of my comments earlier on some of the other images, if you shot this, say at high noon without a cloud in the sky, the contrast would just be awful and the picture wouldn't look anything like it does now and probably just wouldn't have worked at all. But good job on this. Title of this image is Master and Apprentice. I gave it a score of 13 points. It also was your third place winner. It's a nice kind of candid shot of these two guys in the blacksmith shop. It doesn't look posed or staged or anything. Just kind of looks like they're kind of going about their business, and which is kind of the way it should be. About the only thing I think might could have helped this one, I guess it would have been kind of neat if you had the guy beating on a hot piece of metal with sparks flying everywhere. That might have maybe given the impact a little more, or the image a little more impact. You might have had to kind of ask them to do that for you. Who knows? But anyway, pretty good shot. Bobcat Stalking at Last Light. This one received a score of 14 points and a second place. Lots of good things happening here. The contrast on the black and white part of this is really good. Got some good blacks and some good whites, kind of the way black and white is supposed to be. He left a little room for the animal to sort of move across the frame. Little room to the left of where he's walking. Pretty good job with this shot of a bobcat. The final image in the Masters is titled Precious Cargo. I gave it a score of 15 points and a first place. Everything's pretty well done about this one. It's kind of a great idea that was set up and executed pretty well. Not too much I can fault on that one. And I must add that it definitely was a kind of an original idea to what they've done here. This image also received Best of Show. I'd like to thank you all for having me judge your contest this month. I hope maybe a few of my comments have helped some of you out. Thank you very much for having me.